I started working in sort of Cleantech startups about 10 years ago. I was lucky to be in a position to build a startup program with EU funding, the ClimateTech Accelerator. And from there, I created the ClimateLaunchpad. ClimateLaunchpad is really business ideas, early stage business ideas. ClimateTech Accelerator was for entrepreneurs that were already on their path and got some early stage funding. So that's the difference between the two. And maybe the key thing I've learned from ClimateLaunchpad is that there's a surprising amount of entrepreneurs who would love to dive into the challenge of climate change. So the program was meant to be 1 year. It now is in its 8th year. It was never meant to go out of Europe. We started with 10 countries. We thought that was pretty cool. But now it runs in 60 countries. And that's not because there's so much funding for it, or that we had a brilliant strategy, or that it's an amazing idea. It simply works because there are so many people in countries that want to sort of pick up on this challenge. And, you know, I always thought this was a rich country thing, but we have the most applications in emerging economies. So when Kenya joined, they had more entrepreneurs applying than, I think, Germany, the Netherlands, and France combined in 1 year. So there are lots of entrepreneurs who would love to dive into this, and they all do. Many of them do. And the problem I have, and that's why I'm also excited about this initiative for Entrepreneurs for Climate, the problem that I have is that we're not really offering them a fair deal. So if you want people to be entrepreneurial and say, hey, you know, solve this societal problem for us, if they do it through a startup, there needs to be a real market opportunity. And there's a mismatch, I would say, in governments talking about trying to fix our carbon problem and what they put in place in incentives. Like it's kind of hard to explain that there's still no sort of basic value-added taxes on airline tickets, for instance. That's basically a subsidy for a very polluting industry. So the good news, of course, is we have amazing successes in wind, in solar, in electric cars. And if we want to have what happened there, lots of new companies moving into that space and giving it a boost. And then for electric cars, what we're seeing is that existing companies are actually moving in. We've seen that with wind too. For instance, Siemens was a late adopter of wind energy, but then acquired a Danish company and is now one of the bigger players in wind energy. So if you want that dynamic to play out, you need a framework in place, what I call deployment-led innovation. And what it does, it creates a market for solutions that we as a society want, but that at the moment are still too expensive, but that have the promise in them to become cheaper over time. So solar is a perfect example. Since the mid-70s, when you could buy these panels, they've reduced in terms of pricing 99.9%. Lithium-ion batteries decreased in price 80% in the last 10 years. So we know how this process works, but what we need is to have a way in place for somebody to pay the most expensive part, which is the development phase. And that the incentives are there for at least 10 years. So Denmark did that for wind, Germany did it for solar, and then China took over. Electric cars, I would say, was the state of California with Norway and the Netherlands, a few other countries that really incentivized electric cars.